Hello everyone and welcome to the finals of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. We are in the final game, or rather games. I'm not going to be able to cover both of them as the internet in Croatia is simply too slow. It would take me too long to cover to upload both of the games, so I'm going to merge them in one, as these are blitz games. And first I'm going to show you the critical position from game 1, and then I'm going to show you the entire game 2, as I thought that would be fun. So this is the position here. Giri has the white pieces. The photos and the names are set up for the second game that I'm going to show, but here Giri sacrificed the material with knight f to e5 with check. And while this is not an objectively great move, is there an objectively great move in blitz chess? So Nepo accepted, of course, very happily. F captures on e5, d captures on e5, and now bishop to c5, putting pressure on Giri's king side. Now you can see there's a lot of action happening here. Also pawn captures, then this bishop is coming to c6. Nepo will try a very to checkmate Giri, and the Giri will have to justify his sacrifice, but it's not going to be easy. Giri starts with bishop g5. We have h captures on g3, h captures, and bishop to c6. Nepo now ready to checkmate Giri's king here. The idea is d4 and then just rook to h1 checkmate, but Giri is ready. Rook to c1 puts pressure on the bishop, but now Nepo gives it up in hoping to checkmate the white king. We have bishop to e4. Giri of course blocks this, and now captures and captures. So Giri of course is now down material, and Nepo wants to trade off as many pieces as possible. So knight f5, and now queen to a4 by Giri. And again, while this is objectively not great for white, this is blitz chess, and we really don't care. So here we have rook to c8. Bishop to e7, also very nice, forcing further trades, but Nepo decides to start with rook to c8. Rook to c8, and now Giri goes in with bishop to f6. Attacks Nepo's rook here, and now the position is already very difficult for black, but still very much playable. However, you have to play rook to g8 here. The move in the game loses the game terribly. So here rook to h7 was played, but now it simply doesn't work. Here Giri jumped in with queen to d7 check, and now there is no good move for Nepo. He completely got entangled in this, and that's just it. Nepo of course defended. He played knight g to e7, but now just bishop captures on e7. And what do you do here? You can't really trade, but other than that, what's left? So he played queen captures on e7, but now queen captures on c8. You lose the material terribly here. The bishop also is under attack, so you need to waste a move moving the bishop. Bishop to b6 was played, not allowing, of course, rook to c7 to win the queen right away. But now knight to f6, attacking the rook, going for queen to g8 check, or rather checkmate here. So rook to g7 has to be played, and now queen to h8. Now Giri is completely winning. He wants to play queen to h5 check, and there's nothing Nepo can do about it. d3 was played, but now comes queen to h5 check, rook to g6, and now rook to g4. And it was in this position that Nepomniachtchi resigned the game, and the game 1 of the blitz section goes to Anish. Giri. There is no defense against queen captures on g6. There is no move that stops that, other than some very weird moves that we are not going to cover. So this is how game 1 ended, and now we are going to the actual game that we are showing in its entirety, and that is game 2. We're now, sorry, I just forgot to swap the names, my bad. Let me just fix that. Give me a few seconds. There we go. All right. That should do it. There we go. All right. Alright, there we go. Alright, fixed that. So now we have Jan with the white pieces, and Anish has the black pieces now, and Jan now needs to win the game to force Armageddon, otherwise it's Giri who takes it all. So Jan with the white pieces decided, okay, we're not going to go for the Sicilian one more time, we're going to play b3, we go for the Nimzovich-Larsen attack, and let's see how Giri deals with this, as now everything is on the line. Nepo absolutely must win with the white pieces. So Giri starts with the d5, and this is a very principled decision for any time format. When your opponent opens on the flank, you want to control the center. Bishop to b2, and now bishop to f5 by Giri. We have d3, and interestingly, Nepo had this position with the white pieces against many strong players. He had it against Grishuk, against Levon Arno, he had it against David Anton Guijarro, but he never actually won a game against such strong opposition with this. But for this must-win game, he decided to go with this for Giri. And here Giri strikes with c5, and interestingly, already as of move 3, we have a completely new game. So here, knight to d2, continuing development, preparing to strike with e4, and now knight to f6 by Giri. We have g3, preparing to fianchetto the light square bishop as well, and knight to c6 now. We have bishop to g2, and now e5. So massive control in the center by Giri. We have e4, striking in the center by Jan, and now captures. So d captures, bishop has to go back, and now knight g to f3, Jan is now also ready to castle. We have queen to c7 by Giri, and castles now. We have bishop to e7, and now knight to c4, putting even more pressure on the e5 pawn. All of the pieces are attacking that e5 pawn, and Giri could capture on c4, but he decides to go rook to d8 first. Attacks Nepo's queen. Nepo moves it, queen to b1, and only now bishop captures on c4. You don't want to lose your central e pawn, so b captures on c4. Now the queen is on a semi-open b file, hence the queen b1 move, and here Giri castles. We have rook to e1, now adding additional protection to the pawn, developing the rook, and knight to d7 now, preparing to strike in the center, maybe with f5 or maybe with a solid f6. We have bishop to f1, now shifting the bishop to a useful diagonal, because here, even though Nepo has the bishop pair, it's not doing all that much. It's pretty hemmed in by the pawns. So knight to d4, this is the dream, you know, having a knight on an excellent central outpost, and if white eliminates it, then you improve your pawn structure even further. So here we have knight to d2, preparing to strike in the center with f4, and now bishop to g5. Of course, getting ready for that idea. Now the bishop, the pawn, and the queen are helping out with the defense of the f4 square. So bishop captures on d4, we have bishop captures on d2 first, now rook to d1, and only now c captures on d4. We have rook captures on d2, and now knight to c5, again putting pressure on that e4 pawn, and bishop to d3 defending it. We have rook to d6, now Giri wants to get his rook somehow into the game, maybe rook a6, rook a3, put some pressure along those lines, and now rook to e2 by Nepo. We have rook to a6 as planned, and now queen to c1. Now Nepo trying to get some sort of an attack going, maybe with queen to g5, f4, maybe f5, maybe he can go h4, h5. This is now going full barbarian mode. So rook to a4 by Giri, and now queen to g5. We have f6, pushing the queen back, now queen to h5, and here rook to a3. Now with a double attack on the bishop here, so Nepo needs to defend this. We have rook to d2, and now queen to a5, putting pressure on the rook here, so Nepo moves it back, and now, only now, as the a pawn is attacked twice, rook captures on a2. So rook to b1, not allowing the trade, and here we have queen back to c7. So Giri grabbed the pawn here, he has everything nicely defended on the king side, the center is closed, now he can start pushing here, maybe a5, a4, a3, there are many ways black can play this. So rook to f1, getting support for this f4 thrust, and now we have rook to a5. We have queen to g4, but now rook to a3, again putting pressure on the bishop here. So f4, Nepo no longer wants to wait, he wants to make something happen, he needs a win here, otherwise well, it's Giri who wins it all, the title along with the $60,000. So e captures on f4, g captures on f4, and now knight captures on d3. Giri is just eliminating all of the attackers. C captures, now rook captures on d3, grabbing yet another pawn. Now he has the passed d pawn, the passed a pawn, and Nepo needs to do something, otherwise he can just resign. He pushes e5, again full-on barbarian mode, just pushing forward, but rook to e3 now by Giri, just supporting that e file, not allowing that pawn to do any damage. We have queen to g2, now attacking the b7 pawn, and here Giri just calmly trades with queen to c6. And here Nepo could actually go for this rook captures on b7 idea, winning a pawn, but it doesn't really help all that much. For example, captures, now f captures on e5. And what do you do here? If f captures, rook e2 check, what do you do? King g1, now even d3 is coming, and not much for white to hope for here. If you trade, rook captures, king captures, again, this is just winning. d1 check, d2 check, d1 queen. So you'd have to play something like this, then rook captures here, and it's black is just up too much material. So instead, Nepo tried queen to d5 with check, forcing a trade there in order to get his pawn all the way to d5. But Giri says that's not a problem. Just queen captures on d5, c captures, and now trades in the center. F captures, and now, well, capturing here is fine, but now first rook captures on b7. Grabbing that pawn, eliminating one of the passed pawns, but now just e captures on f4. We have rook to c1 by Nepo, and now f3. Giri continues pushing his passed pawn. We have king to f2 blocking, and now rook to e2 with check. We have king to f1, and now rook to e5. So what do you do here? Not a lot to do. You're down too much material. Rook c to c7 was played, hoping for maybe a mouse slip or something. If Giri plays something like a5, there's still a way for Nepo to win this. For example, captures, and then after king h8, captures king here, and this will be checkmate. So you always need to hope that your opponent makes some sort of a mistake, but here we have rook to g5. Nepo defends the pawn and is ready to go down with the rook. So here we have h4, trying to get that rook away from the defense of the g7 pawn, but just rook to g4. Yep, Giri says that's not happening. We have king to f2 blocking the pawn, now just rook to g2. We have king to f1, and now you are Giri here. Feel free to pause the video and win the game, and with it $60,000 and the title of the champion of the Magnus Carlsen Invitational while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on always pushing that passed pawn. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, yeah, you can push that one, but this one is much faster. So whoever did this, congratulations, as this is what Giri played, and it was in this position on move 44 that Nepomniachtchi resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Your rook to g1 is coming. This comes with check, then the queen gets promoted, and this is unstoppable. If you capture the rook, it's still checkmate. Queen to f1 check, king g3, and now just queen g1 check. The king has to go to the h file. Rook to f3 will be checkmate. So after this rook to f2 move, Jan resigned, and an amazing finals between Anish, Giri, and Nepomniachtchi. The first day started a bit slow, 4 draws, then 2 more draws, and then then 1 more draw, and then well, it was just crazy. It was incredible how Jan bounced back and forced tie breaks, but now Giri wins both of the games, and it was really incredible how he won the first one. The sacrifice wasn't really the most correct move, but like I said, is there such a thing as a correct move in Blitz? Not really. So Giri wins in great style game 1, and he just punishes Jan in game 2 for simply, going full on barbarian mode. He kept calm, he just, played all the right moves, and then he won the entire event. So congratulations to Anish, and also for Nepo for such incredible play. They were both deserving of the title, but as usual, there can only be one winner. So yeah, that's the game, or rather those are the games. Hope you guys enjoyed them and the coverage, this short coverage of the entire event. We are now, of course, going to cover some other things that are happening in the chess world, and of course then we are returning to the good stuff. So yeah, once again, hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Edgaras Rusteka, Michael Karlin, Christian Wissers, Sebastian Bohm, and John King for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the Morphy saga, checking up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.